Hello and welcome to World News Live from Warsaw. My name is Diana Skaya. U.S. and Ukrainian officials are set to meet in Saudi Arabia on Tuesday with President Donald Trump, focused on the Ukrainian president's willingness to make concessions in negotiations. Now, the discussions could play a crucial role in the future of U.S.-Ukraine relations amidst the war with Russia. Now, President Trump has reportedly told his delegation that securing a minerals agreement with Ukraine will not be sufficient to restore U.S. military support or intelligence sharing. Now, while Trump is in favor of the deal, which would grant the U.S. a share in Ukraine's mineral resources, he expects Ukrainian President Zelensky to show more flexibility in peace talks. Now, according to several American news outlets, Trump is urging Zelensky to consider tough compromises, including the possibility of ceding territory to Russia. Trump is also pushing for Ukraine to move forward with elections, which have been paused under martial law, and even suggested that Zelensky considers stepping down. Ukrainian officials, for their part, are expected to push for the resumption of U.S. military aid and intelligence sharing during the talks in Jeddah. Kiev is reportedly considering proposing a partial ceasefire to persuade Washington to lift its freeze on support as they discuss a peace agreement with Russia and a critical minerals deal. Russia launched yet another attack on Ukraine on Monday morning, targeting the Kherson region. 2 people were injured. Now, local authorities have issued a statement saying that 2 residents of Kherson were wounded when a Russian drone hit a car in the Dniprovsky district. Last night, Russia struck the Zaporizhzhia region, damaging 2 residential buildings and leaving 2 people injured. Russia also attacked the Nikopol region, destroying residential buildings, houses, and power lines. 2 people sustained injuries. Poltava was also the target of the overnight Russian strike, in which residential buildings, cars, agricultural machinery, and a power line were damaged. There were no reports of casualties. Following the exchange between Polish Foreign Minister Radosław Sikorski and American Secretary of State Marco Rubio, it has been confirmed that the Starlink system in Ukraine will remain active. Polish Foreign Ministry spokesperson Paweł Wronski confirmed this, adding, quote, that we can now be sure that the U.S. is aware of Russia's intention regarding Ukraine's invasion.
Minister Sikorski's main interlocutor in this conversation was Secretary of State Marco Rubio. A very strong, unequivocal assurance was given that Starlink would not be cut off and would continue to be used in Ukraine. Secondly, the statement that Russia could be on the border with Poland demonstrates that the US side is aware of Russia's intentions. These intentions are not limited. Russia aims to control the entire territory of Ukraine and all the outcomes that entails.
Russia announced it is expelling 2 British diplomats on Monday over suspicion of carrying out espionage and spying activities. Now, the move is part of a tit-for-tat exchange between Russia and the UK, as both countries have repeatedly expelled each other's diplomats. Now, according to British media, one of the 2 diplomats having their accreditation revoked is the second secretary of the British embassy in Moscow, and the other is a spouse of another diplomat. Now, the 2 have been given 2 weeks to leave Russia. Also, on Monday, Russia's foreign ministry summoned the representative of the British embassy in Moscow to inform him of the decision. Now, this marks the latest round in a tit-for-tat cycle of diplomatic expulsions between Russia and the UK. Last year, both countries expelled each other's military attachés, the highest-ranking positions lost so far. British Foreign Secretary David Lammy has vowed to unfreeze billions of dollars generated from Russian oligarch Roman Abramovich's Chelsea football club and send it to Ukraine to help the country win its fight against Russia.
Abramovich was forced to sell Chelsea FC after the EU imposed sanctions against him following the Russian full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022. Abramovich and UK officials previously promised the funds from the sale would go to Ukraine. However, they remained in limbo due to a disagreement between the 2 sides. Meanwhile, Sébastien Lecornu, the French Minister of Defense, has announced that his country will use interest from Russian assets to fund another 195 million euros in arms for Ukraine. The official shared the details, saying that the funds will be used for 155mm artillery shells and glide bombs for Mirage 2000 fighter jets that France recently provided Kiev with.
And now let's move live to Vilnius, where the Speaker of the Polish Parliament, Szymon Hołownia, is on a two-day visit. Now, during his stay, Hołownia will engage in high-level talks with key Lithuanian officials, including President Gitanas Nausėda and Prime Minister Gitantaus Paluckas. Now, one of the major highlights of the visit will be his participation in a meeting with parliamentary leaders from Poland, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, Ukraine, Finland, and Iceland. Now, this gathering marks quite a significant moment for strengthening regional cooperation, particularly in the context of geopolitical challenges. Now, Hołownia will also take part in ceremonies to celebrate the 35th anniversary of Lithuania's independence, a historic event that reflects the nation's resilience and ongoing commitment to democracy. Now, this visit is a visible sign of Poland's close ties with Lithuania and each nation's commitment to security and stability in the region. During an interview for TVP World, retired Colonel Zdzisław Śliwa, Dean of the Baltic Defense College, addressed the crucial issue of arms of delivery to Europe, particularly in light of potential shortages in U.S. military hardware. Here's what he had to say.
Should we buy more jets from the U.S. if they can be turned off remotely from Washington?
I think you raised quite significant and very dangerous aspect of military security in general, sir. Yes, you are totally right. The point is that Europe and of course Poland is using also U.S. hardware, like you mentioned, F-16. We have also tanks. We have also weapon systems, weapon platforms, which are using ammunition which could be procured only from the United States. So any shortage in that sense could be a big challenge, because having platforms without ability to use it, it could be definitely military disaster. On the other hand, I still think that US is a reliable partner. The point is that we have not so many chances in that sense. US is still the most important, the most powerful member of NATO in that sense. And Poland has already presented for a few times that transatlantic relations are important from Polish side. And also when you heard maybe when Mark Rutte, Secretary General of NATO, was talking about Mr. Trump, he mentioned a very nice political statement. He mentioned about good relations. There is no will from NATO and Poland side to antagonize US.
NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte is visiting Bosnia and Herzegovina for talks with state officials. Now, the trip comes amid political tensions in the country. Now, while in Sarajevo, the NATO chief is expected to meet with the chairman and members of the presidency, the chairman of the Council of Ministers, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, the Minister of Defense, and the acting Minister of Security. Now, during his trip, Rutte will also visit NATO headquarters Sarajevo at Camp Butmir, where he will hold talks with the commander of the base, the High Representative for Bosnia and Herzegovina, and representatives from the European Union. Later in the day, he is set to meet with students at the University of Sarajevo. Now, Rutte's visit comes at a time when political tensions have been soaring since Milorad Dodik, the president of Republika Srpska, a Serbian-majority enclave in the state of Bosnia and Herzegovina, was convicted last month for defying the rulings of the top international official overseeing peace in the Balkan country. Protests have erupted in Romania's capital of Bucharest following a rejection of the presidential candidacy of far-right populist Călin Georgescu. Now, the move, which came after Georgescu's candidacy was initially filed, has sparked anger among his supporters, igniting demonstrations outside the Central Electoral Bureau's headquarters.
On Sunday evening, hundreds of protesters gathered in front of the Central Electoral Bureau in Bucharest after the electoral body dismissed Georgescu's presidential bid. The protest quickly escalated into clashes between demonstrators and riot police, with stones thrown and fire set in the streets.
It's no longer about who supports one side or the other. It's about the fact that we are a people and we have every right to vote for whoever we want. And to reject a candidate with 350,000 signatures is not fair and not normal.
I'm here now because they rejected Mr. Georgescu's candidacy. He is the spirit of the Romanian people, as you can see from all the people here.
This rejection follows a ruling by Romania's Constitutional Court that invalidated last year's presidential election. Georgescu, who is making a second attempt to secure victory, has filed for candidacy only days ago. This decision is deeply rooted in claims of non-compliance with electoral regulations. Political tensions are high in Romania as allegations of Russian interference have clouded the election process. A criminal investigation is currently underway against Georgescu. Despite the protests, the rerun of the presidential election is set for May 4th, with a possible runoff scheduled for May 18th.
A 24-hour strike by employees is taking place at 13 German airports on Monday amid new contract negotiations. Now, all flights are severely disrupted or cancelled. Now, around 23,000 employees working at airports across Germany are participating in the action. At Hamburg Airport, the strike began a day earlier on Sunday, leading to flight cancellations which affected more than 40,000 passengers. Now, according to the airport's management, only 10 of more than 280 scheduled flights went as planned, and many service desks sat empty as would-be passengers lined up to seek information about the cancellations. Now, the airport strike in Germany is part of a wider wave of protests by the country's public sector workers in recent weeks who demand an 8% rise in monthly wages. And that's all for this edition of World News here on TVP World. I'm Diana Skaya. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for more news and features.